Hi, I'm Rachel Allday, and this is the Hospitality Breakroom, recorded weekly in our actual break room at the Abode Luxury Rentals offices in Park City, Utah. This season on the podcast, the founder and CEO of Inhaven, Ashley Ching, and her teammate Meaghan Myers will be joining me for the 10 full episodes.
Our theme this season is certainty, served weekly with Inhaven. This is your inside look at how local property managers are setting new standards in vacation rentals. Each week, we unpack the real challenges behind the bed, bath, kitchen, and beyond, offering practical solutions, myth-busting truths, and tips from the field.
Whether you're a seasoned property manager, vendor, owner, or just curious about getting into the vacation rental space, this series shares the real-life tools and stories that bring more consistency to every stay. Powered by Abode Luxury Rentals in Inhaven, built for those who want to do things better.
Hi, and welcome back to the Hospitality Breakroom. We are currently on our 9th out of 10th episode, where we are talking about certainty served weekly with Ashley Ching and Meaghan Myers from Inhaven. So today we have a really good topic, I think, and it's really different from our previous 8 episodes we've done together. What are we calling this?
We're going to call this the certainty within.
Okay. The
Oh,
certainty
so
within.
good.
I need that today. Like, I really need that today. You guys, I had therapy this morning, just like me, personal, not couples. Couples is tomorrow. And like, I could have probably gone for 2 to 3 hours instead of just one. Like today's, I was like, I have a lot of things I'd like to talk about. So I think this is perfectly timed. And I hope you guys don't mind if I, go off on therapy tangents because I can't.
I love it. That's all we're going to talk about today.
Let's do it.
I'm so
Okay,
excited.
perfect.
We'll
Talking
get
about
there
personal
especially-
stuff.
Yeah. So today's episode, we're going to talk about something different other than bathrooms and kitchens and KPIs. It's really something deeper, and it's about the people behind the properties and the women behind these properties that are balancing growth with grit, raising families while raising standards, and finding clarity in an industry that often runs on chaos. And I couldn't imagine 2 better people to interview than Rachel, who we all know is the co-owner of Abode Luxury Rentals in Park City, and Meaghan Myers, who's head of growth here at Inhaven. So why don't we get into it? I want to start a little bit about the beginning. Why don't we start with you, Rachel? What did you imagine you'd be doing when you grew up, when you were a child?
Oh, not this. Okay. So no, totally not. Did this even exist? Barely. Okay.
Right.
So I definitely, when I was like little, I'm pretty sure I wanted to be a ballerina dancer, like a prima ballerina, because I like where I grew up, there was this really like prestigious ballet school just randomly like outside of Chicago. And my mom went, so I was like one of those little girls in ballet like 5 or 6 days a week, like sometimes
Wow.
early, and then like until I was 13, and then
Wow.
like puberty kind of a thing. And then it was like, because I was like, I know you can't picture this. If anyone can see the video, you can probably tell this, but especially if you've like seen me, not just my head, I don't have a ballerina's body. Not at all. I have had 3 kids, but also I am not very much of a straight line. And I don't, that's, that whole like a ballerina, that's not. Yeah. But when I was young, like, I know I look like I'm big boned, but like, actually, if you look at my fingers, like I'm like really small boned. And so when I was little, I was like that. So they liked me for ballerina school because I was like really skinny and like knobby kneed. But then around 13, that changed. And then there was no more ballet for me. But anyway, so I wanted to be a ballerina. And then once I got into like high school, for sure, I wanted to be a journalist. And that's funny. That tells you how old I am, because like that's not even a thing anymore. But I wanted to like write for magazines and newspapers, which barely exist. And so I went to college, and I went to the university. I went to Indiana University, and I went to the Ernie Pyle School of Journalism. And even like in my freshman year of classes for journalism, they were literally telling us in journalism school classes, like your 100th level, like this will not be this will not be a job. Like they were already talking, this is before iPads, but they were like, these tablets are coming out. This is literally in my freshman year. There's going to be tablets. There's going to be all this news on phones. Phones were, somewhat new. Computers were a thing, but it wasn't like now. And it was like this industry is completely changing, and it won't be what it is right now. They were basically like, don't do this. Yeah.
And
So
now
anyway,
you have a podcast, which is totally
you're right. Now look at me. I'm so modern.
Right. It's modern journalism.
I didn't put that together. Yeah. So I wanted to be a journalist, and then I ended up going into like some fashion stuff. Like I did like personal shopping and stuff, and then a little bit of buying, and then I went into marketing. And then I had a kid, and I couldn't travel all the time like I was traveling for Coca-Cola in a marketing role. And so then, but we had started this business. And so then, well, for a few minutes, I thought I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, but 3 months of that, and I was like, nope, not going to do that anymore. And then I was full-time at Abode with Rob, and then ever since that, and then here we are. Yeah. So who knew? Did I ever think I would be doing this? Hell to the no. No. But I love
Meaghan,
it.
how about you? What was your dream when you were a child?
I had a lot less direction than Rachel until I was like 5. I wanted to be a cat when I grew up. And
I love when kids say they want to be a cat when they grow up. That is
Yeah.
such a good. I love that.
I was like deeply ingrained. I like made my whole family call me Tessa, which was my cat name, and like crawled around the house. They thought that I was going to be a lot weirder than I ended up being. Thank God.
There's still time.
Yeah, right. I wanted to be in college. I think I changed my major maybe 6 times. I just wasn't sure. Like I wanted to be a doctor, and then I was like, that might be too hard. I should be a PA. And then I was like, maybe that's too hard. Maybe I should go into nursing. And
Oh.
the nursing program was so competitive that it freaked me out. So then after I took a biology course that was so hard, I would cry after every test. I was like, I'm going to go into PR. Switched my major to PR, did that for a semester, and then I was like, I'm gonna be a lawyer. Why have I not thought about this
I mean, I
sooner?
could totally see you as a lawyer.
I could too.
Yeah, so I like really went down that path, was a poli-sci and criminal science double major, and bought all the books, started studying for the LSAT, and then I was so just burned out on school. It's funny, I never thought I'd really care so much about my career. Like it just never really felt like the front and center of my life. And then I started working for my family who owns moving companies right
Oh,
out of college. And I was so miserable. And I think I've told you guys both this, but we had like literal punch cards. So
uh-huh.
we'd have our time card and we'd go and we'd punch them in the morning, and then I would sit at my Dell Cube computer from 2003, and I was so miserable.
Were
And
you
but
in
I
like
my
a
sister
cube?
and my sister and I shared an office. It was
Okay.
like all gray, no windows, and I was in my hometown living with my mom summer
Okay.
after college, and I was like, this cannot be my life for a long time. But my sister was engaged. And so I really wanted to move to Thailand to teach English because I
I
had a lot of
hate
friends that were
this.
doing
I didn't
that.
know
But
any
I
of
was like,
this.
yeah, I kept thinking to myself, I can't move to Thailand because my sister's engaged and she's about to get married. And then how am I going to afford all these plane tickets back for her bachelorette party and all the things? So I'll just wait until she gets married and then I'll move to Thailand. And in the meantime, I started dating this guy because I was 22 and I was dating lots of guys.
So
And
young.
he introduced me to a woman that worked for 360 Blue. And I remember we were all at a bonfire on the beach one night, and she was like, I'm working for this badass company. Like, I love my job so much, and the culture is really great, and it's all young people, and you'd be such a great fit. And I went back home to my childhood bedroom in my mother's house, and I applied that night, and I started interviewing, and I think I got the job like a couple weeks later.
This is crazy.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
totally random.
That's
So
amazing.
random.
The
So
lawyer route was never going to work for me.
Meaghan, it
Like,
sounds like
I
you were
could see you as a
inspired.
lawyer, but I mean, you are so well suited for hospitality, and especially like in leadership. So, and that is like such a total fated story.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't. I
Yeah.
had a bunch of jobs before. You know, like I did like this. Like it wasn't my thing. That just like, and I knew that you started young, Meaghan, but like this is like your first career, and it really stuck. Like that's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
Meaghan, you
Ashley.
were raised by entrepreneurs, it sounds like, or you're
Oh,
potentially.
yeah,
with the
you
move-
were.
So my dad was in the military and he was a fighter pilot. He flew F-15s. So we actually moved around a lot. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I went to 5 different elementary schools and 3 different middle schools, and I think that's why I'm so talkative now because I like had to make new friends every single year. Like we literally moved once a year, sometimes halfway through the school year. And my parents got divorced when I was 12. So we moved back to my mom's town where her parents were living. And I was living with my mom, and it was summer before 8th grade. But my siblings, I'm one of 4, they have a different dad. I have a very blended family.
Okay,
And
yeah.
their dad owns a bunch of Mayflower moving companies. And so
Oh,
that is how I
Got
got
it.
into the moving industry, was my sibling's dad, who was, like, in our same town. So, like, half military brat, half moving family, and then raised by a stay-at-home mom, who then went back to work when my parents split up. And so that was really interesting. I got to experience kind of, like, having a fully stay-at-home mom and then having a working mom post, like, my parents' divorce
yeah.
and,
Prefer-
her, like, awakening.
Did you
Wow.
prefer stay-at-home mom version of your mom or working version of your mom?
Stay-at-home mom, for sure. Yeah, but I think it was just because I hated being a latchkey kid,
Yep.
and that was really hard going
Yep.
from, like, I would come home or my mom would pick me up from school, and I would have, like, snacks waiting for me, and then I was like, "Well, now I have to walk home from school, and there's no food, and my mom's not
Right.
gonna get home until 8
Right.
o'clock at night," and
Yeah.
she watched a lot of Dateline, and so I was very anxious about getting kidnapped,
Oh,
and
interesting.
I
Well, that
think
was
that
that
really scarred me.
it was kind of the era, right? Like what year?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Elizabeth Smart.
Okay. Yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, that
I
was
mean, yeah.
scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
mhm.
And Rachel, it sounds like you were raised by, right? Was your dad an entrepreneur?
No. So my
Okay.
dad was a
So,
podiatrist. He actually just retired. My dad was a
okay.
podiatrist. He had his own practice, and then he ended up selling it, I don't know, like 10 years ago to like a private equity group, honestly. And then my mom was a neonatal nurse before she started having kids. And then she was like, when we were little, she was a Lamaze teacher and a lactation consultant. Uh-huh.
That's amazing.
And so when I was little, I would go, like, she would bring me to Lamaze class and I would like sit in color. I can remember. And she was like, yeah. Because she had been the neonatal nurse, whatever, and then so she went into Lamaze because that was like, kind of like part-time. And then she was lactation consultant with like women who were breastfeeding. And then that was all the way. And my parents took in foster kids starting when I was like 13.
What?
That was like a whole thing.
That's awesome.
And they took in foster kids until maybe I'd say like 15 years ago. They probably stopped. Now they're like mid 70s. So yeah. But yeah, my mom didn't really work. I mean, she worked like, Lamaze and like, and then after all of us were gone and out of college and after she stopped with the foster kids, she did like do a little bit of like nursing, like really, really, really
Mhm.
part-time. But yeah.
So Rachel, and this is something because Mike is semi-involved with Inhaven on the weekends. So Rachel, you obviously co-own Abode with Rob. And what have you learned about building this business, having kids on the side, maintaining your relationship? How do you make it all work?
Yeah. Well, you can't, like, not perfectly. That's
Right.
the trick. Yeah. Okay. But I would say, like, to me, owning a business and having kids, number one, you have to have good childcare. And I know this is like, not everyone agrees when it comes to childcare, but I'm a big proponent of really good childcare. And I know some people would say, like, oh, I don't want someone else raising my kids. But I do feel like I like being involved in my business and I like the ability to travel and participate in conferences if I want to. And I also think my kids get a lot out of, being somewhat independent for me. I don't mean from a very young age, but just like in general, um, you know, having someone that they can trust, that we all trust to help, with taking care of them when Rob and I are working. And that I think there's a lot to be gained, from the kid side of things if you can get that right, which is hard. But so I do think childcare is huge. And I also think like sharing responsibilities at home and there's a trick to this personally, I think. One is like, making sure you both agree on, responsibilities. But honestly, Rob and I, neither of us like a lot of house responsibilities. Like I do think some people love cooking or they love making their house a certain way or decorating and, like I don't have that. And so one of the things that I found is like finding people to help with stuff and
Mhm.
just letting that be okay and not being ashamed of like, yes, I need someone to help with housekeeping or like I
Totally.
need someone to help with whatever it is, like shuttling kids around to activities or whatever. And to not be, I have had years of like feeling bad about it. And I think just being able to be like, it's okay. Let's like, number one, like let's grow our business so we can afford to have childcare and have other help that we need in order to have our home and our life the way we want it. And then number two, let's like get over the guilt. Let's find the right people to help us with the right things. And then let's make it so that when we're with our kids, we're spending like real quality time with them and we're not distracted. And we also make sure that we have enough time to do a good job at work and keep our business going. And so like it's a crazy balancing act. But yeah, for me, I feel like part of it is finding the right people to involve to help you with things. That's how I made it work
Totally.
for me.
And what about, because Laura is also involved, your sister?
Mhm.
How is that with that? I think we talk a little bit more about couples co-owning, but how is it working with your sister on a
You
day-to-day
know, I
basis?
love having family in the business, and this is like, in our company, there's a lot of family here, not just mine, but like there's multiple groups of like relations that work here, and I love it because it's like my sister came in as an admin role, but moved into like homeowner relations, and of course, I love that. Homeowner relations is like a job in the vacation rental industry where if you start your own business and you're doing that yourself for many years, when you have to finally hand that off to someone, that is so hard. Like your homeowners are such you fight so hard to have a good enough business that you will do a good, that you can trust that you can do a good job for people and that they can trust you. And then you really fight hard to get those relationships and keep them strong and to hand them over to someone else to take care of that relationship is like really scary. But to hand that to family members, depending on your family relationship, I think can be really rewarding and wonderful because it's like, of course, I have a close relationship with my sister Laura and I trust her. And so that makes that so much easier. And then within our company, we have like, there's a gentleman that's worked here doing reservation sales forever, like I think 6 years. And his daughter-in-law, Tootie, works here and she's like our director over sales and marketing. And like that, he brought her in as a suggested intern, like I think 4 or 5 years ago. And now she's moved through the ranks and she's like one of the strongest people on our team and she's amazing. And that would have never happened if he wouldn't recommended her. And then Jess, who originally started as like our live-in nanny and then ended up, starting as an admin here at Abode, like after being our nanny for 3 or 4 years. Now she's been here at Abode for, I think, 8 years. And now her sister, Marilyn, has been with us for maybe 5. And Marilyn is the person that handles all the vendor relationships with all like the techs for like on the plumbers and the electricians and all that stuff. And then Marilyn's husband came on last year and he's a certified HVAC technician. And so we brought him in on the handyman team, but he's also an HVAC technician that's in-house. And last week, Jess and Marilyn have another sister, Maddie, and she just started on our guest services team. They actually have a huge family. Yes. And so there's just a ton of that on our team. There's a ton of like people that bring their friends or their roommates onto the team. And you might think that in some situations that could lead to like, I don't know, maybe mass exodus if one of those people gets mad and maybe they all leave, or like if I don't know, like I know there's tons of bad ways that could go, but like knock on wood, for us, like what it's meant is that people have each other's back, that if they're having a bad day or they're kind of annoyed with their job, it's not just the job because these are like their friends and family that they work with. And so it helps us create like a really close team. I did think that maybe it would create like cliques and stuff, but it hasn't because everybody likes each other and they not every day, like it's not perfect, but mostly. And, people are happy to like introduce their friends on the team to the people that are here that are family. And I don't know, it's worked like it really well. And I think there's a lot of luck involved, but
That's
I'm big on
awesome.
family at work for sure. Yeah.
So Meaghan, your husband is a chef. So he's also in this crazy service, hospitality industry. What's it like sharing a household with another person that's in a very similar service related industry?
It's why I mean, I admire the both of you so much for being able to work with your husband because Clark and I laugh all the time that we don't know that if we could do it. Because both of us want to be the boss and that would be our issue. We're definitely not going to be the couple that starts our own company because we would push each other out because I would want to be in charge and then he would also want to be in charge. So it's really great that we have our separate careers where we get to like be the boss in our own rights. And I mean, he is the most hardworking person I've ever known in my entire life. Like this, it's so funny. Being a chef is one of the most stressful jobs that you can have, which I didn't know until we were married. Specifically, a restaurant chef, which he is not anymore. Thankfully, he owns his own catering company, but it is a lot of long hours, and he's got close to 40 employees, and especially in the busy season, like, his phone starts ringing at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning when they're prepping for the day, and it rings until 2 in the morning when they're finishing up events, and it is just like he works 18-hour days on his feet all day long, and, he's, like, a very passionate, intense person, So he requires a lot of like exercise as an outlet, where I'm more like, I'm gonna do Pilates for an hour and then I'm gonna lay on the couch the rest of the night. So
Yeah.
we have our own ways to unwind, which I think is super important for us. Like, I know that if I don't do X, Y, or Z, then like I can't show up in a good way in our relationship, and he's the same way. So, I don't know, it's gonna be we're really excited to see what this dynamic, and a little scared looks like when we have a baby in a couple of months, because we're both gonna be, like, trapped at home for a little while, and
Right.
that is, like, great for me because I'm such a homebody, but that is not really his style, who's like, he's gotta play basketball for 2 hours and then go play pickleball for 3 hours. So, I am curious about that.
You need some of the
Um,
running strollers.
yeah, I know we need
Yeah.
a jogging stroller, like,
Stroller. Yeah. Yeah.
It'll be okay. Like in the beginning, I feel like it's really on the mom in the very beginning. Like it's
mhm.
just no matter which way you shake it, it's kind of like, more on the mom. And so he'll still be able to go outside sometimes. And then once you're like a few months in, I feel like that's when it's
I'm
like,
gonna be like,
hey,
"Here you
daddy, we
go."
need your help.
Yeah.
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 Here
Exactly.
you go.
So both of you
Um,
guys are, living in these vacation towns, right? Like Jackson and Park City, they're not cheap to live in. And you're surrounded, and I feel like a lot of people in the vacation rental industry live in these resort locations.
mm,
You're surrounded by, a lot of wealth. How do you guys, and Megan, this I know you're probably just thinking about this, but Rachel, how do you keep your kids grounded when they're growing up in such a affluent community?
I mean, yes, that's hard. Um, well, okay. I do think having our own business has been helpful because our kids have watched us grind and that Rob and I do have to answer our phones a lot. And there's a yin and a yang to everything. Like, yes, yesterday Annabelle, my youngest, who's 8, she had her school singing thing, and it wasn't like a big performance. It was literally like the music class said, if you want to come watch. And so like Rob and I were able to go watch that. And then I was able to also go watch at 5:30 when she had like some sort of gymnastics slash cheerleading thing that she wanted, for us to see. So it's really cool because we have the flexibility that we can go see things. But also we can't not answer our phone, even if we're on vacation, if someone from our team needs us or one of our homeowners or you know what I mean? And so I do think our kids see like how dedicated we are to our business, how much we care about our team. We have our team over like once a year for a party or we do things and we have our kids there. And so like our kids and they hear us talking about everything, like they know how important our business is to us, how hard we have to work, how much we think about it, how much our team matters to us. So I think that that's got to help. But I'm not going to lie, like raising kids in Park City, my parents, that was like the first thing my mom said to me when I got pregnant and I'm like, we're going to be staying here in Park City. And she was just like, you're going to raise your kids in Park City. Like, and so, I mean, I get it. Like, yeah, I mean, but look, there is the, whatever, there's two sides to everything. So my kids get to live in Park City and yes, there's a lot of wealth and there's not a lot of diversity and there's not a lot of like culture like you would have in a big city or, there's a lot of things we have to travel to give to my kids. But my kids get to be outside like every single day of the year. I mean, they get to literally ski 5 days a week all winter long. They mountain bike all summer. We have crazy outdoor activities. And so it's just normal to take advantage of that here. So that's cool. So I think there is that back and forth. I do think if Rob and I were not entrepreneurial, well, we probably couldn't live here if we didn't have our own. I don't know how we would have afforded with I don't know how we would have done that. But yes, I do think raising your kids in a resort town it's a choice. And I think it's good for a lot of reasons, but I also think I could see why some people would judge that. And yeah, so I have some rebuttals. Like I said, like there's plus side. My kids' school. I don't know if everyone knows what Woodward is, but like Woodward is this extreme sports facility that they have in a few mountain towns around the country and maybe around the world, but definitely around the United States. And it's literally where like Tony Hawk and like all these famous like extreme athletes will train when they're in town. It's like a full on extreme sports training facility. Okay. But also kids, you can pay and the kids can go there and like go do all the things. And my kids' school is literally like a 3-minute walk from Woodward in Park City. My kids walk to Woodward after school every day. That's insane. People travel here, pay a lot of money to like go and have like one afternoon there. My kids just like chill. And the place is full of like these coaches and stuff. So your kid can like my kids have gotten their, I don't know, their cork 360 or with like all these backflips and all this stuff because they have all these facilities to like and trampolines and ball pits and foam pits, and so they can learn all these crazy, like they have the trampolines where the kids can wear the skis or the snowboard, and those crazy things where they jump on the top of the wall and they do like some trick and then they bounce back down on I don't know even what that's called, like parkour. I don't know. Anyway, this is all like normal for my children. So, okay, upside of Park City, downside.
Exactly. Can assure you my kids are not, would be
Yeah.
so jealous if they heard that.
Yeah.
So on these really hard days, like you might be having one today, Meaghan, I'll start with you. What drives you to keep going,
Ugh.
especially in this industry? What drives you?
I've certainly been having some hard days recently. I think it's the pregnancy hormones. Honestly, I feel super fortunate to be in the industry that we're in, that's as understanding and as transparent about communication and struggles, and the fact that it is a really hard industry to be a part of in so many ways. Like, there is no formal training for property managers, and there isn't a school that you go to when you're overexhausted, but we all have each other. And so that is really helpful. Like, every time I felt super burnt out, when I was leaving 360 Blue, I remember, like, I felt so burnt out and I was like, how am I going to start a new job and show up in this way where I have to like be constantly on all the time, because I'm proving myself when I was exhausted from 6 years of like working 80, 90 hours a week and like really trying to prove myself, and just having people to go to in those moments that are all a part of the industry and that have all been there is really, really unique, I think, to what we have. And because we're still so small as an industry, which is amazing. Like, the same people that you see at shows now that we're going to see at the executive summit, like Corinne, I've been seeing her at shows for 10 years. And that is really cool. Like, she was telling me this story where she has friends who weren't married, and now she like watched them get married, watched them have their first kids, and now their kids are graduating high school. And I think that's such a cool like driver in the industry, at least for me. And then, Clark and I are this is like therapy talk, but we try to keep like very strong boundaries around like intentional time with each other that definitely grounds us. So like, we'll go out to dinner and we will leave our phones in the car, or we won't talk about work after a certain time, or we'll say to ourselves like, hey, we have like 15 minutes to talk about our day or talk about work, and then we're not going to talk about it again for the rest of the night. And that has helped tremendously, because I find like, especially, me being in leadership positions in companies over the last 10 years and him owning his own business, like it can be the thing that you talk about all the time.
Right.
And that I found is like not healthy for us, because then we are like roommates or like business partners, And so trying to find this boundary line of like what allows us to still let each other into our worlds business wise and like bounce ideas off of each other, but when can we turn it off and just be like a married couple that watches shows together or plays games.
Right.
And then I have a really good group of girlfriends, which Jackson, like Park City, is a really hard place to live, and it's really hard to make friends here, and it is such a transient community because you have to be very wealthy in order to stay for a long time. Like, Clark and I both have great jobs and we can't afford to buy a house here. Like, you struggle a lot just to like make ends meet. And so a lot of times people are moving in and out all the time, but I've like found this really good group of girlfriends and we play mahjong every Wednesday. And that has been fantastic. It is worth the investment to buy a mahjong set.
Wait, Ashley, do you play?
I did when we lived in Hong Kong.
Ugh,
So
I
my mom
can't
taught
imagine how
me.
intense it was there.
My mom taught me like 15 years ago, but I don't remember. And everyone's doing it now, and I feel so out of the loop. Not that it really.
On
Okay.
Wednesday night when we get together for dinner,
I
we
know.
can
I think
take a 101 on mahjong.
I feel like I need to buy a good set, and I just need
Yeah.
like it's a whole thing, and I feel like I'm missing the boat, and I don't want to miss out on it.
Oh,
So,
I got you.
funny story about Mike's grandfather. He played so much mahjong that he like literally lost like the skin. He didn't have like fingerprints
That is insane.
because he wouldn't look at the.
Wait, are you sure that's why he didn't have fingerprints? What if there's another reason?
Exactly right. But like he would not look at the tile. He would just feel
Just
it, and he'd know what was below. Is that insane? Yeah,
That is
so
insane.
Amazing.
We'll get you another on a separate time. We'll get you up to speed on mahjong.
Let's do that. I know it's going to take a while. Okay. Wait, I feel like I want to ask about your background, Ashley. I want
No,
you
this
to
is
tell
great.
your
We'll see
story.
this
You're
later.
like, no, I'm the interviewer, and I'm like, could you just?
Yeah. Um,
I think it's really
And
like,
Ashley, you own a business with your husband too.
yeah, come
yeah. Well,
on.
he's very part-time.
You can have boundaries if you want, but tell us, please.
Yeah, there are no boundaries. He often is asking me questions at 11 p.m. at night. So I'm just learning. I'm taking notes here from you guys.
Are you
Well,
like,
Megan and I are on the opposite ends of the
Yes.
spectrum. Like Rob and I are no boundaries. We are like talking about everything all the time. And I like it. I feel like it makes us best friends and
Mhm.
business partners. And like it's not normal best friends because we have owned a business together and we're married and we've had this business for 17 years and shit ain't easy. And it hasn't been beautiful every time. Like it's not always, but we have gotten through all these times. And to me, it's like if you're going to do it, you're going to have, it's going to be hard. So if you can just accept that and be willing to work through it, then you could end up. And I think it's going to be a cycle over and over again. Like I don't see this as like, oh, we got through that and now we're good. Like I'm sure it's going to be just a series of
Totally.
like, I don't know, at least it's exciting. And I think it like really deepens your relationship. And then to me, it's almost like I couldn't be closer to anyone in my life than him after all this stuff we've been through. And so I think that's cool. But I do feel like the way Megan talked about it and the way, my life is, it's like, it's definitely like Rob and I don't leave our phones in the car ever. That's never happened. And we don't say we talk about work all the time, but it's just like there is no line between our life, who we are, our family, and our business. It's like for me, it's just all
Mhm.
it's like if those ingredients were in a pan, it would look like goulash. And I'm okay with that. Like it's just how
Mhm.
I'm okay. But I know that that's not
We're the same.
comfortable
We're
for
the same.
everyone. So
I've tried to set boundaries, but
yeah,
I think what
tell
is
us.
hardest for me, and I think for him too, is having an executive level position at any company, whether it was Tiffany and Company or owning this business or starting this. It's really, really stressful, right? It's so fun and it's great to build something that doesn't exist and to create something new and whatnot. But then I think it's also then managing that you've got 4 little kids or, just kids in general that you need to take care of. So it just feels like there's never that, like, off time. So I need to figure out how to, maybe extend a trip a day just to, like, sit and think.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the answer.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, wait. I want to hear your whole background, but I do want to say one thing that you brought up because if I don't say it, I'll forget. I will say one thing that I think has saved Rob and I throughout this whole thing, building, our business in these different markets and whatever, and having kids, is that because we have 3 different markets, we often have to go to Jackson or Sun Valley, and we will go for like 1 night or 2 nights, usually just 1, but a lot of times it's both of us. So we're gonna have the whole drive there to be chatting about whatever. Then we're gonna be working with the people there. We'll probably take them out to dinner, go out for drinks and hang out. And then we'll have a night in a hotel, but probably together or like a rental, which I know I'm not trying to be like weird, but like you need that as
Mhm.
parents, especially. You're
Mhm.
like away, you're somewhere else, your kids aren't there. That's nice. It's
Mhm.
honestly like life saving for your marriage. And then you come home, you're back to your regular life. But like we have to do that almost monthly. It maybe it's more than monthly, sometimes maybe it's a little less. And I
Yep.
swear that keeps everything going. Like just having, like you said, a little time where there's quiet, even if you're both together and you're just like quiet for a little bit. And also like intimate alone time. I'm not trying to be weird, but like honestly, when you
Yeah.
have kids, to be able
Yeah.
to get away for a night or two is like life saving. So I do think like Ashley, you're just so right. And that is what it is. Like and maybe this is not true for everyone. I have so many friends, even my sister, like her and her husband have never had, maybe they've had one. I think they've had 1 or 2 because we watched their kids. Rob and I did, but we watched her one son. But like I know a lot of people that will say, "Oh, I've never had a night away from my kids," and I'm like, that, like, especially if you work together, like that's not going to work. Like you're going to need, because like
Yeah.
you said, you need some clarity time,
Mhm.
even if it's like you spend a little of it like talking about work and like arguing about something you don't agree on and then making up and then having a night alone in a hotel. Like honestly, just it's that simple. And so I say like start booking some trips with your husband without your kids, which you're obviously doing, executive summit. Okay, now tell us your whole background story, please. Come on.
We're never gonna get through. I have so many more questions to ask you
Who
guys.
cares? Let's just talk about what we like and what's like interesting. And like we
Um,
can, yeah, it's okay. We'll
yeah,
talk
so
about
my
what's an
background,
executive summit.
I did fall into this industry. Okay, so when I was growing up, my first job I wanted to be was a window washer at the gas station. That was like,
Yes, I
How did
love
that
it.
come about? How did that come about? Please, I need the
I
backstory.
we'd go to like, we'd go to fill up our cars, or my parents would, and they were like, nice service people that would come out and wash your windows. I don't think this happens anymore, but
Wait, because you're talking East Coast. Is that when they would
oh, I was
like
talking
they had to pump your
Chicago.
gas? Oh, Chicago?
Chicago, like in our suburb,
I don't
someone would
remember.
come out and wash the windows. I don't
I
know,
love that.
what gas station this
Pump
was.
boys. Okay.
I wanted to do that. And then obviously my parents were like, well, that's wonderful, Ashley, but that won't afford your lifestyle that you want to live. And then I had in my senior year of high school, a teacher tell me that economics wasn't for me, which then that clicked. And I was like, I'm
Whoa.
going to be an economics major. I ended up being a TA for one of my economics professors, graduating with 4.0. And then went into consulting where I then so that was, fortuitous. And then was really interested in consulting. I was I was focused a lot on consumer retail, consumer businesses. Like our clients were like Wrigley and Hanes. I did a project there. And I was like fascinated by the consumer and wanted to get closer to the consumer. And so went to work for Tiffany and Company, which took us around the world, and then the Home Depot. And then we had all these kids. And so we
Come on,
started
say a little
saving-
more. You need to tell our millions of listeners about how many kids I know we've like touched on a
we
little,
have
but I
four-
honestly,
we have 4 kids.
who's not fascinated by someone that has 4 kids? Like this is
Yeah.
Runs a company.
So have you guys been reading all these siblings? There's articles on all the sibling research. Oh, it's fascinating. The Daily just did a podcast on siblings and how siblings actually have more of an impact on who you're going to be than parents.
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah.
I can totally
So
see
I
that.
will forward this out. We can put this in the show notes, but it's fascinating.
I need to listen as
Yeah.
I'm preparing.
Yeah. So
have a
anyway,
second
basically
house.
you need a second child, Meaghan.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, God, I got to do it again.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, so yeah, we had all these kids and I just saw how inconsistent and uncertain the vacation rental industry was, because we would say vacation rentals, and having a background at the Home Depot and understanding the suppliers and how we could bring more consistency. That's how this all started. And actually I never grew up, my parents weren't entrepreneurs. But I had always had like little ideas here and there. I wanted to start, when I lived in New York City, like a small furniture manufacturing company for small spaces. Which
That
Mike
is cool.
told me that was the worst idea he'd ever heard. I guess all the furniture companies go bankrupt. So this was like the first idea he really supported and was like, yeah, let's do this. So that's how Inhaven started.
It's really it started with the furniture piece, or no? That was it was like
The
no.
furniture piece was like, no, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard of, Ashley, which he probably said it exactly that way.
That's what I said to Rob when he wanted to start Abode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, terrible.
Yes. Yes. So with Inhaven, he was like, that's brilliant. Let's do it. So yeah. So that's how we got
Inhaven is
here.
brilliant. It is.
I love that.
For
so
sure.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's through partnerships with you guys. It's a journey.
No,
So-
it is so brilliant. And like I went to the Matt Landau, retreat in Costa Rica. I think I already said this on here.
Yeah.
And like, it was really cool. And I met a bunch of cool people, but I was talking to some people that I met there. This one woman, Deborah Sacco, I think I mentioned her. She's in California and she's really cool. She has a really cool operation and she hadn't really heard about Inhaven too much. And so I was telling her about it and she was just like, oh my God, that is so good. I'm like, I know, like we need, and we've all needed this for so long. And it's just like, and then I have to remind myself sometimes, I'm like, wait, I didn't even find Inhaven. Like who on my team? And it was like, I think it was 2D on my team that like went to a conference, talked to someone, maybe it was you, Ashley, it was someone on your team, and then came back and told Julie on our team. And Julie was like, at the moment, like really interested in the concept of, up leveling our property. And it's like just weird kismet. And it's like, I totally would never have found out about what you guys were working on and how amazing and how much it could help us. And then found out how willing you were to like work with people to, make everything work for our unique needs. And like, I don't know, it's just crazy. And I think that, entrepreneurial stuff, like that's the way it always goes. It's like everyone has not everyone, I got most people that are entrepreneurs that have their own business. You have all these series of events, whether it's a bunch of mistakes you made that ended up with something great, or just like a bunch of like weird random things. And then it results in these amazing outcomes. And when you look back and people say, how did you get from here to there? And you're just like, it's a long story. And it's like, it's kind of always that way. And it's just crazy.
Totally.
Yeah.
I love it. So in terms of just the vacation rental industry, switching topics a little bit, what do you guys think is like, from people that are outside, what's like the most misunderstood aspect of vacation rentals today?
That there are no management companies and that it's all Airbnb.
Hosts. I
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
totally,
all.
yeah.
You think, oh wait, Megan, you think a lot of people like guests think that?
I think 99% of guests think that.
Yeah. I mean, I I think I do know some guests think that because we get people leaving comments like, "Hey Rob," because Rob started these listings, some of our listings a long time ago, and some of them have his name. And it's like, "Hey Rob," blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Oh man, they think there's like a guy named Rob that's like, they think Rob, you're actually." So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So to me, I feel like in vacation rentals, there's so many misconceptions because it's still forming, but it's like I do think that there can be a misconception that vacation rental companies are really just like these marketing, sort of like that hospitality is not something that's a priority for vacation rental
Mhm.
managers. I think that to me that feels like a big misconception, and I don't want to badmouth my own industry, but I do think there are a decent amount of property management or property managers, vacation rental companies that maybe don't care as much about guest experience and I don't think this is like a prevalent trend, and I don't think it's like a forever thing, but I do think there was a boom because there was low interest rates and people were buying properties and they were able to make money with them by renting them out. And there was a really cool thing that there was profit on the table, and so there was a focus on the profit. And maybe not so much on the fact that these are people's experiences that count, or whatever the cost of those experiences, they're really important to the people having the experiences, and that we really have to do a good job to care about the guests. I also think that not every vacation rental property management company needs to be providing amazing over the top service, because we all know there's Hampton Inn hotels, there's Holiday Inn, and those serve a purpose.
Mhm.
And I think, in the vacation rental space, like part of the problem is that we don't have the branding, we don't have the standards. And so we can all get lumped together in a way that's like really not helpful or logical. But because we don't have those brands to support the framework of like, oh, it's okay, it's a Hampton Inn, I knew what I was getting.
Right.
Sometimes I think that, to me, one of the big misconceptions can be that like, hospitality isn't great with vacation rentals, or, you don't know what you're going to get. And I don't think that's always true, but I do think without a framework, without standards, it's easy for people to make those generalizations. Yeah.
Mhm.
What keeps you guys up at night? Not just as leader, like what wakes you up in the middle of the night? These nights.
Ugh. Salesforce.
Really? Say more about that. I want to know. What do you mean? Yes, I do. Everyone, like over these years, there's so many times we've looked at using Salesforce and we never did it because we didn't have like techie people on the team. And Rob and I knew we'd have to pay someone so much money to make Salesforce work for us. We never did it. But like, I wish we did, kind of, because I know there's so much functionality. So say what you mean. Come on.
I love Salesforce. I really do. Like, I'm a big fan, but I was never trained as like a Salesforce admin. So I've been kind of trying to train myself to do all these customizations for Inhaven. And I'm loving it because it my brain has to solve problems or else I feel very bored.
Right.
Which, I mean, you guys are the same way, right? You're entrepreneurs. And so if I'm not doing something that's challenging or if I'm doing something super repetitive, I find myself like starting to feel depressed. But I do wake up in the middle of the night a lot now to pee 5 to 6 times a night. And so I'll wake up and be like, I worked on this thing for 2 hours last night. Like I was trying to add a small field in Salesforce last night, couldn't figure it out. Literally for 2 hours. Finally, at like 9 p.m., I was like, "I have to be done with this. Like, I'm gonna punch a hole through my computer." And then I woke up this morning and I did it in like 10 minutes. But it kept me awake last night thinking about it. So that's one thing. And then I also just think like where the industry is gonna go as a whole. I think about this all the time, especially with roll-ups that started a
Me
couple
too.
of years ago. And part of it scares me because I'm worried that this like sense of community that we have as an industry could go away one
Mhm.
day because of that reason. And when I feel like you go to conferences and there are more suits in the room, and that is one of the things when I got started in the industry and I was given like so much responsibility at such a young age, so underqualified, and like I would show up to work and jeans and a t-shirt, and it
I'm
like
wearing
I
jeans and a t-shirt right now.
yeah, I'm wearing sweatpants. So cuz sweatpants are all that fits me right now. And I love that. Hey, I got voted at work at Outpost Eternal Optimist. Yeah, that was my superlative
Yeah.
in the
This is
company.
Spiritual Gangster brand, like
I
my
love
favorite
Spiritual
brand.
Gangster.
And they have all these shirts that say stuff like this.
So
I just
good.
wear it all the time, like a weirdo. Yep. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
But yeah, I don't want that to change. I think that what is so cool about our industry is that you don't have to have an MBA and you don't have to go to an Ivy League school in order to have a lot of success and be given a lot of opportunities, particularly as a young person. And even me as a young woman who kind of was, worried that no one was going to take me seriously. I didn't ever have that experience where I wasn't taken seriously or where I had to work as an admin for 10 years before I was able to work my way up. And I want that to stay in the industry, and like the intense professionalization with all of the money that's coming into the industry. I worry that that could change. And
Mhm.
that's kind of
I do
scary.
too. Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. Like I mostly had, like I told you, I had a little bit of time working in buying, right? Retail buying. And that was more like female. I don't know. There were a lot more females in that. And so that, that was kind of a cool experience. But then I pretty quickly went into like corporate marketing with McDonald's, Coca-Cola, and definitely, all the things, all the typical business things that Ashley, I bet with your background, you've run into. Some of it positive because there's initiatives keeping things a little bit more even, sort of, but there's also still just historical history of how things go in business, and it was just prevalent and whatever. And then, also having moved to Utah, which is, a very conservative place, and working at one point before I worked with Coca-Cola in a marketing job, I had a role for a few years. I'm old, you guys. I had a role for a few years with a developer the developer who did the St. Regis in Deer Valley in Park City, and so that was a company that was owned by people from Utah, and it was a bunch of guys that were like raised in Utah that were working with me, and that was a whole because Utah is a conservative place, and there's a lot of great things about being in this area, and a lot of great like family values, but also a little bit different views towards like, equality with women in the workplace and stuff. And so I feel like I have learned, I've seen all different things. And then being in the vacation rental industry has been, overall amazing. There's so many cool women. Like I mentioned Deborah, and like she's amazing and she runs her company, and look at us, right? And there's so many successful, amazing, like smart, competent women. And there's so many people that we can learn from and network with. And I love it. I love it so much. But I will say, like, the and maybe this comes from having a business with my husband, because I think and Ashley, you've probably seen this and you'll probably never stop seeing it. I don't think I will either. When you have a business with your husband, you always kind of forced to like see the way that people see men and women differently in the workplace, and
Yes.
how a woman with a strong opinion, especially maybe when you're sitting next to a man who, like my husband, is like, my husband is much quieter. He's much more like introspective. As much as I show up all the time, and I probably need to like take a little breather sometimes and like leave space for other people. This is Rob and I, the yin and the yang. Rob is always holding space for other people. He's always listening, and he's always kind of just quietly listening all the time, and he's like processing. And I am never holding space, and I am always showing up. And so like probably Rob needs to show up more, and I need to hold more space. And we talk about that a lot, right? Thank you. Welcome to my therapy session. But I think like as a woman, and when you're in business, and a lot of times Rob and I are together when we do things for work, it's a comparison. And I think it can make me come off, I can be perceived more as like this strong, bitchy lady. And sometimes that can be hard for me, because it's like, even when I wasn't working with my husband, because of my personality type and the fact that I do show up and I talk a lot, I think it's a natural inclination for people, unfortunately, to be like, she's a loud, bitchy, and it's hard. That's hard. And even in our industry, I feel like that happens a lot. And I mean, that's the nature of the beast and like whatever. But I do think that even the loud, bitchy ladies in the vacation rental industry, like there's a place for us more than most industries. And I think that's really cool. Like I definitely now, having worked in marketing, like in, hospitality a little bit through the development side, and whatever, in fashion a little bit, that like I would never want to work in another industry. And Meaghan, whenever you talk about that, like how you love this industry so much, and I'm like, I am so with you. And like Ashley, you came to the right place. and like, please never leave. And I just like, it is so cool that I think hospitality is so cool because you're helping other people. Like the very nature of your entire job is serving others. And I do think that's like a natural thing with women, with most women or a lot of us, sort of inherent in us, like as mothers and whatever. And it doesn't mean that every woman, if they're not a mother, they don't have that. I mean, I just think there's just this component in our genes or whatever. And not to say that men don't have that, but I just think there's something cool about that with women. And I think having a job where you are helping other people, making other people happy, like it just makes working better. It just does. Right. And I don't mean like when I worked for Coca-Cola, it was like, like a Coke and a smile or whatever. Like that's cool too, but it's not as good as hospitality. Honestly, I've lived it. I can compare it.
So kind of switching to what would make the vacation rental industry better? What is like one software or tool or something that you guys wish you had in your toolkit?
I mean, I want like a really amazing concierge software. I mean, there's some I think in development that are going to be pretty good. You know what I've been talking about lately? A dashboard. I want a like why do we have to pull all these reports from Streamline, pull all these reports from Send Squared, pull reports from Breezeway? Like Meaghan, you were talking about KPIs, and I had a bunch of people on my team listen to that episode that we just did talking about KPIs because it was so good what you were talking about, and everybody was loving it. And we were talking about like, in order to pull all that stuff you're talking about, and we wanted to have it in one place. And like, couldn't we have something that could be pulling that and putting it on like, why do we have to keep having all these different people pull all these different kind of things? And, we've been talking to this guy, Al, who used to work with Sarah Bradford, and he's been consulting for us on some stuff. And Melina, who used to work with her too. And like, they have these great ways that we're looking at info from Key Data and Streamline. And it's like, dude, could I not have that where I could look at it every day? Like you mentioned, Ashley, on the last episode, how when you worked with like Home Depot, whenever you could see all these numbers hourly. In the vacation rental industry, we can't do that. You want to know why? Because you have to spend a full day pulling it all to look at it from all these different resources. And you can't just have it in front of you when you want it because there's no dashboard like that. So, hey, I already told JJ, actually. I was like, JJ, can you code me something? Here's what I need. And we're trying to work on it. But
they're doing Airtable, which they're like obsessed with.
He's obsessed with Airtable. He made us a concierge software. Anyone listening, if you need concierge software, and I don't mean like add-ons, okay, I mean like, Rachel's whole soapbox of good concierge software. JJ has created something that we've been using for a full year that's like no code coded, like Airtable essentially. And it has been working pretty good for concierge software. And I did tell him about the dashboard, and he did not tell me to F off. He was like, hold on, tell me exactly. So Rob was in there like telling him all the details. And like, I bet you JJ's going to make it. But also, anyone else want to throw their hat in the ring? Like, why don't we have that? Right?
I know, I agree. It's like, so it's because our softwares have to be so fragmented. I've always wanted an owner CRM, and I had really set out to build one. And then I thought, who could I sell this to, and who's going to build it for me because I can't code. And then I was like, I'm going to learn to code. But as with most of my hobbies, they die after about 7 days. So
I'm kind of doing it. Have you looked at what they're doing?
Yeah, like what I have wanted is something that could track all communication with homeowners that could connect to your phone. So property managers who are texting homeowners when they quit or they get fired, like it's a high turnover job in some cases because it's very exhausting. You're talking to homeowners all the time. Being able to track that data where the next property manager could pick up the phone and we have access to all their messages. Like we would have issues where property managers would quit and on their personal phones, they had been talking to homeowners. So we had no idea like the history and what they were talking about. And it left a lot of gaps to fill in a job that's already really hard to fill because it's so relationship based. Temperament tracking, I think, would be huge.
Wow.
Like tracking owner temperament at any given time that's based on the last conversation that you had with the owner, how they seemed in the last conversation, being able to track what an owner cares about. So whether they're more revenue focused or more care of the home focused, and having
cool.
that information. And then like all email tracking with owners. So you could pull a report and say like, okay, my home that's projected to do $400,000 this year, that is very important to us. When's the last time someone talked to that owner? And where are they in terms of temperament? Are they in the green zone? Are they in the red zone?
SendSquared does all this. It has all of your phone stuff. It's like, because SendSquared is like Ring Central. So it's got all the phone stuff, text and phone calls. but it doesn't have the temperament thing. And that is cool. That is really cool. And SendSquare does have all the emails going through there for homeowners too. So like
I
part
think
of that they've got, but not the temperament.
I think Ring Central or like, I mean, I know Salesforce has a sentiment analysis that you
Mhm.
can buy into. We were looking into
Yeah.
track the sentiment of the phone calls and the emails.
Salesforce could be
Very
an
cool.
option for so many, like what you want, Rachel, right? Like you could feed in all of this data into Salesforce for a dashboard. The problem is for large companies, like you will spend $200,000 on Salesforce,
Right.
right? And a
This is what
lot
I
of
found
people
out.
just don't
That's
have
why I
the
was like,
capacity
I
to
mean,
do
because
it.
like, I don't know, you could spend 200 and probably build some software. Like, I mean, not something huge, but like you could build probably what you, I don't know. I mean, because that's what you're doing with Salesforce, right? You're paying someone basically to build the software, right?
Well, that's
Like,
the other thing, right? Is like if you're using something like a Salesforce, you have to have an admin or some
right.
type of tech team, right?
Yeah.
Which is like a lot of people don't have. Like their IT person might be more focused on hardware than software. And if you
Yeah.
don't have anyone that's never used Salesforce before, then like you've got to work with an admin, which could be $70,000 a year.
Right.
So it does exist. It's just not built for small business property managers.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
looking back to let's go back to your childhoods. What is the one piece of advice that you would give your younger self really starting out in this industry? And maybe there's like a spin on being a woman in the industry.
Okay, but not childhood then, because like I think I got into this and I was 30. Is that right? Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry,
Well,
your
you're
younger
talking
self.
like
That's not child.
younger
Yeah, your
adult
younger
years.
self. Yeah,
Okay.
younger. Yeah.
I think I really was between being too aggressive or too soft, right? Because I'm like a natural people pleaser. So I like came in and especially for the people that reported to me, I really wanted to be everyone's friend. And then when I realized I would get taken advantage of, I would go to the opposite end and it would be like super unnatural for me because confrontation is so unnatural and that I would come across like and I'm not just saying this as like oh, women can be aggressive. Like I was aggressive and like did not deliver constructive feedback in a good way or when I was angry, right? Like I could be too demanding and it was because I was trying to overcompensate for this time that I had spent like being a little bit too friendly and it took me a really long time to find somewhere in the middle that is like you can ask people to do things that report to you in a respectful way and you should worry more about being respected than being liked and when you are showing up authentically and transparently and you can have like personal conversations and work conversations and it's not so one-sided on like you're only ever talking about work or you're only ever talking about your personal life and then when you do talk about work your team's like what do you mean you need me to do something I think I realized like if I just showed up authentically then like I wouldn't have to try so hard to prove myself to everybody and I think I was just trying to overcompensate for the fact that I was 22 and a lot of people that were reporting to me had been doing things for a lot longer than I had
Right.
and I let my own insecurities about being a young woman, like, completely define the way that I acted and showed up, and I would tell myself, like, "Hey, if you just showed up the way that you are and you were transparent and, like, you weren't afraid of confrontation because it all works out in the end, then, like, you're gonna be fine." And it would've saved me a lot of time.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that makes perfect sense.
I love that.
I feel like for me, okay, a few things. Like, so I was the opposite of you, Megan. Like, I was a total ball buster, like in the beginning. Like, I definitely was like flying off the handle too often with like vendors, or I probably wasn't like going off on people that worked for us. Thank God, because I don't know how we would have been able to keep people like we have. But I was like talking to Rob and being like, we should fire this person. Like, I was really jumping to like, that's it, like no chances, which is really funny. I'm like the opposite now, but Rob, that's the yin and the yang of Rob and I. Like I was just like always like act immediately, is like, what is it? What do people say? Like ready, aim, fire. And I was like, fire, ready, aim, or whatever. Like I was like fire. And so, but Rob has always like, been the one to like temper those situations, like tell me to like, take a night and sleep on it. Like, let's talk about it more. And so that really helped us get through that period. And for me, that was because I was acting out of fear. So like having our own business was frightening for me because I had had salary from other people. And I was like, we're going to what in the world? Like, we're going to go under, when you have your own business, even when it's going well, it just seems like one wrong move and the whole thing blows up. And because we had no investment. And so I had a lot of that. And then I think, honestly, going through some other things in our life and doing a lot of therapy has helped me to stop acting out of fear. So I would say, I would tell myself to not act out of fear so much. I'd probably tell myself to go to therapy a long time ago. And then I would tell myself to not act out of fear. There's so many things I remember I was so like negative feeling towards our competitors all the time. What the heck is that? How did that help? But I was always like, oh, we gonna get that, that was a few years of that until I read Tribal Leadership. Really, that was the book. That's why I love that book so much, because that is the moment where I was like, oh my God, I'm doing that. I don't want to be like that. And then I did a lot of therapy and stuff too. And then I was like, oh, and now I feel like I can understand the industry different and like make friends with people. And I think I had fear about my competitors. And so that wasn't helpful. So stop it with the fear. And I think recognizing like the benefit of, befriending and working with and supporting my competitors and like them doing that for me and opening the door for that. Yeah. Fear of competition. Like I would have stopped that. And you know what else I would do? I was always like, I'm not a numbers person. I never got into the numbers of our business. So even to this day, you guys know, whenever we talk about spreadsheets and stuff, I'm always like, I don't know. And I really have worked over the past year to stick my nose in all of that more and to really understand it more. And I wish I did that a long time ago. And I have learned that from Sarah Bradford, actually, because she has been like, you need to know this and you need to, and I'm like, you're right. I do. And I always just relied on Rob, and, that's not fair. And then it left me at a certain point where I wanted to know more about that stuff. And now I have like a long way to learn to get really, really into it like I should be. And so, yeah, that's what I would say. I would say, don't act out of fear and get into the numbers more. Like, stop acting like you're the girl and you don't need to get into the numbers. There you go.
I could not agree with you guys more.
That's so good. Yeah, Ashley, what about you?
I would add two more. One is, I thought if I built this really cool platform called Inhaven, if you build it, people will come. And in the vacation rental industry, and I think any B2B relationship, it's all about relationships. So really, knowing up front that it is about investing in relationships. And that's been why I love Inhaven so much, is because, to Meaghan's point earlier, like, it's the people and it's the relationships that we built. And it's just, that's been the most fun part of this whole journey for me. And then the second, I had another one. Oh, I got this. So I was on a phone call recently with Robin and Heather Cragen, and Robin was talking about how once he had heard about Marriott does this point system with when their guests rate the hotel stays, and they did a study and it found that the highest rated stays typically were associated with a problem the guest had. And then Marriott, the team at the hotel, the local property management team, addressing that problem with a solution. And so I think when you're first founding any business, you're so worried about messing up, right? You have this like fear. Again, Rachel, to your fear base, you're so fearful. And I really think that Inhaven shines when there are issues and how we go about resolving them with our customers. I think that's where I think we've built the most loyalty with our customers. So yeah, my additions would be, it's all about relationships, and don't fear about, messing up. Things are going to issues are going to arise. It's how you react to those issues.
I love that.
So true. It's so true. Like in vacation rentals, that's so true. Some of the best reviews definitely come from mess ups.
Yeah.
1,000%. Yeah.
Yeah. Marriott was joking, I guess, during the presentation. They were like, so basically, guys, like, we really would hope that there are issues at your properties because we'll get more, 5-star ratings or whatnot. It was funny how they put it. So kind of just to go back to standards and certainty, and to kind of wrap this up, this is something that the word we hear so often in the vacation rental industry, but it means something different. It could be that, there's standards around furniture, or there's standards around the guest experience. What does standards and certainty mean to you, and why does it matter?
To me, it's all just about knowing what to expect, like, and not being surprised. Taking the surprised in a bad way out of an experience is like what standards and certainty means to me. I think that there is like a surprise and delight element that Abode, for example, is so great at. Like you are incredible at surprising and delighting your guests and your homeowners. That is the good part of surprise. But the bad part of surprise is when you show up to your Airbnb that you paid $8,000 for, and the sheets are microfiber and have stains on them. Like that is the uncertainty I think that gives our industry a bad reputation that I
Yeah,
like, and that's something that does keep me awake at night too.
totally. I feel like so standards in vacation rentals has been like on a roller coaster for me for many years. And way back when I first joined the Park City Area Lodging Association, I think it's like 12 years ago or something. I remember I was like still really naive at that point. And I was like, the lodging association in Park City we should like create standards so that like people that come to Park City know that like the lodging association has assigned like this property and I remember everybody, because a lot of this lodging association in Park City has been around for 30 years. And some of the people that started it were, on the board too. And they were kind of like laughing at me like I was this dumb idiot. And they were like, come on. I thought, oh, I'd been doing this for, I don't know, at that point, let's say if it was 12 years ago, I've been doing it for 5 years. I was like, I know what I'm doing. And they were just like, you're crazy. Like, this is something we've been talking about forever and it's impossible. And that's because the way we were talking about it then was like somehow assessing like, oh, this is a 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star property. And it was like, that's so hard because like, depends on where it is and like, like, how are you going to know like how well kept it is? And, and then according to whose standard and like, what are we comparing against? And it was this whole concept of all of that. And for me, for a long time within my own business, this has come up. Like, should we organize our properties to standards of certain tiers? And, this is like a discussion that happens. Are your properties all luxury or like some of them maybe mid tier and how do you assess that? And then can you use that with homeowners to get people to upgrade things? And it's just really confusing because like for us, let's say if are you talking about in Jackson or like within all three markets? Are we comparing all three markets or are we just comparing one? Are you talking about ski in, ski out versus like in town, or are we just comparing ski in, ski out? Because like the value of real estate, does that play into it? Because real estate values that are ski in, ski out is much higher than, this other. But if it's really, really hard when you're talking about all these individual pieces of real estate that were built at different times to different standards with different styles and different amounts of spend on the appliances and like different amount of land behind them and different views. And like, how do you do this? And so to me, I have had my eyes opened by conversations with Ashley and Meaghan and Inhaven in general, because one of the things that's been discussed is like the idea of standardizing, like you guys have said. And this has become what standardization means to me in the vacation rental industry now, Ashley. And it's like, it's on my mind so much now. And I know, because I'm always telling you this, but like now the fact that this concept that standardization in the vacation rental industry could really be happening through the bed, the bath, and the kitchen is just like such an aha moment. Because now, like I was in a hotel recently and I went to this hotel and I already told the story, right? But I was in a hotel that had a certain brand. And when I first got into the hotel, I wasn't that impressed, but I kind of assumed that like once I got into the room, the linens, the towels, the kind of products that were in the bathroom, the fact that they had an espresso, like that was going to make me feel calm because I knew. And that's true. Like, that's exactly what happened. Like, just because I walked in the room and it was a little musty and it maybe didn't have the best view, but it had these certain attributes that made my sleeping experience, my bathing experience, my morning wake up experience, like really nice and consistent. And it totally made me happy with that hotel, even though I think overall I wasn't as happy. And so like, this has been this crazy eye opener that like standardization, not through marketing, just marketing, not through necessarily like tech or like efficiencies within the background of the company, standardization, not necessarily through like who did the interior design, or how old is the furniture, or how many square feet is the house, or where does it sit in the town or on the mountain, but like standardization through, what you will get with the beds, what you will get with the kitchen, and what you'll get with the bathrooms. Like, oh my God, that is real. Like that counts as standardization that's actually possible. And that's the first time that I've ever felt like standardization could be possible in vacation rentals. And so that's why I love talking with Inhaven so much. And I know it's not an Inhaven commercial, but like for me it is, because like for real, I could actually see, like we even talk within our company about how could we make people feel like when they stay with Abode in Park City, Jackson, and Sun Valley, how could we really make that really flow nicely from the guest and the homeowner experience? And like we can if we approach it that way. And so, yeah, for me, standardization does mean kitchen, bath, and bedroom now. And that's completely due to Ashley, Mike, and Meaghan and Inhaven. And it's like, I don't know if everyone else that hears this feels the same way. I don't know how you could disagree, but like anyone feel free to send me some hate mail. But like, I just, whoa, to me, that's like, there's standardization discussions in this industry off and on for all these years.
Yeah.
And I have never felt like any of them had any legs. And that was kind of disconcerting, and it felt sort of uncertain. Because it's like at some point we have to have some sort of standardization that would create certainty, right? But like, how can you do it? It's so impossible. And now for the first time, to me, it's like, no, it's totally freaking possible, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry. Soapbox. It's not even I'm on your soapbox, but I'm not getting off. You cannot make me get off. I'm on it.
So we're going to finish up this amazing interview with 2 rapid fire questions.
Oh, no.
All right. You guys ready?
Mhm.
Yep.
Finish this sentence. In 10 years, I hope the vacation rental industry finally.
Standardizes.
I want to say the same thing, but how about if I say, how about has meaningful brands and or standardization? Because I kind of see that as the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for both of you guys, what does success look like to you, for you right now? Not just in business, but in life. What does success look like for you?
Financial security so that I can send my kids to college for sure, no matter what, and have money to retire. And so that all of my team and my family will be like safe and comfortable forever. That's what I want. That's so easy. Can I just have that? That's all I want.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
I think success looks like surrender to me in my life right now. And I think that's like surrendering to the fact that my life is about to change very drastically, surrendering to the fact that my body has really already changed drastically and it's going to change even more, and surrendering to the fact that I'm going to have to navigate life as a working mom. And I think trying to give myself a lot of grace, like as mom guilt has already started to exist in my life, which was shocking to me before your baby's born, that you can already feel guilty about things that haven't happened yet. And that involves a lot of like just surrendering to the fact that like whatever is going to happen is going to happen. And like as long as I show up every day like the best that I can, and sometimes that means not giving 100% to my marriage, or the fact that I can't give 100% to work, or the fact that I can't give 100% to eating super healthy or working out, right? Like some days that looks like 70% somewhere and 30% somewhere else. And yeah, I don't know, very different than what it looked like a year ago. And I'm sure a year from now it'll look completely different again. But I am surrendering to the fact that that's okay.
Amazing.
You're totally in like the flux zone. That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's like exciting. Like you're like starting the part that's like all crazy, and that's so good. And
You
it's
get
perfect that you
lost.
want to surrender to it, right? That's like the best way to do it. Like don't fight it. Just go in.
Don't fight it.
Yeah, I asked ChatGPT this morning. I'm not kidding. Is it normal to be 24 weeks pregnant and think, what the fuck have I done? I literally typed that into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT was like, absolutely, it's normal. So yeah, I'm practicing some surrender. What about you, Ashley?
Success to me is health and happiness for my team, my family, my kids. Like just that, I don't know, this is kind of a long-winded one, but Dakota's graduating from elementary school this year, and like she's a really good person. And that like is success to me. Like she's grounded, she's humble, she's a good friend, and she's happy. And so it's just been a joy. Like we're getting to this period now where she's become like a little adult, and I get to see her personality, which is very different than mine. We're two very different people, but it's just neat to see that. And so I feel like at peace that she's happy and at peace with herself.
I love
So,
that.
yeah.
I love that.
Don't talk too much, you guys, because I'll cry at anything these days.
I love that we were like so different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Nice. It was a good change.
So many things.
Thank you, Ashley.
Oh,
This was a
thanks.
good conversation. Yeah, thank
Yes.
you so much.
Yeah, that was a good reset.
I could go on for hours with you guys.
Me too.
Same.
Don't worry, we can. We'll see each other
Yes.
in a matter of days.
Yeah, and we will.
Yes.
I
and
got a
we
text,
have-
by the way, from someone that saw our photo shoot and
Wait,
said,
what? Say that again?
I got a text from someone who saw our photo shoot, and they said, "I have never laughed so hard, and you guys were absolutely fantastic in the photo shoot
Oh,
that you guys did together, and I loved it."
oh, yay. That's fun to
It was
hear.
perfect.
Yeah. Okay, so we are going to see each other soon. And before that, we have our company retreat. Abode has our company retreat next week. So that's going to be a
Amazing.
whole lot more of like this kind of talk and like going in
Yep.
deep with our team, which I love.
I'll have the best.
And then I'm going to be seeing you guys. And okay, but before then, we do have one more, our last episode of this season of Certainty served weekly with Inhaven. So I don't know. Do we know what our topic is for the last one? Or
Well,
are
I
we
think
going
we
to?
might do like a preview of the case study that we're working on.
Oh, perfect. Yes,
On,
please.
the rise and fall of national property managers. And we've done, interviews with over 20 executives across the restaurant, hotel, vacation rental industry, and investors. And so we've had some really good findings. And I think we're going to just get into it and talk
Love
through
it.
it. Get thoughts.
I'm very excited about that. Like,
Yeah.
can we do it right now? Because I really
Yeah.
am excited.
You guys have some more.
Um,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so for all of our listeners, you heard it. We only have one more episode left together, and it's going to be the best one. It's like going to be, to me, this is some case study stuff that Ashley and her husband have like kind of shared with me a little bit. I'm sure just parts of it, but I'm obsessed, and I keep saying it, but I cannot get it off my mind. It's just such interesting, thought-provoking stuff. So I'm really excited that we're going to have that as the next episode. So you should be excited too. And in the meantime, I hope everyone has an amazing week and that you're not too tired after listening to our, I think it's about an hour and 20-minute episode. We're kind of like the acquired of the vacation rental industry. We have like these long form episodes, and I'm not sorry about it. And I hope no one else is sorry either. All right. So please come back and listen next week so you don't miss out on the best episode of the entire 10 episode series. And until then, thanks for listening. And Meaghan, you want to do the what word? It starts with a B.
Bye. Bye.
I love
Bye.
Meaghan's bye. Hers is better than mine. Okay. All right. See you next time.